Welcome everyone to the webinars very special between PEMFiT and Stemregen. We are going to talk together about leveraging the power of our own stem cells. And you will see that there is a fantastic interaction between Stemregen products and PEMFiT technology. And I'm really pleased to welcome you in this webinar. My name is Christian Tricoche. I'm the Managing Director in Europe for Stemregen. And we have the pleasure to have Pete Marroni, the founder of PEMFiT with us, and also Christian Drapeau, our scientist and founder of Stemregen. Before we get into the webinar itself, let me explain briefly how this webinar is going to be structured. So we're going to have three sections. The first section is going to be talking about the stem cells, the function of the stem cells, and how we can obviously leverage the power of our own stem cells. The second part is going to be how it can work together with PEMFiT technology. We have the luck to have established a fantastic partnership with Pete and his team at PEMFiT to basically make sure that we're going to optimize some solutions for your health and for your longevity. So let me introduce you briefly to Pete Marroni. I'm pretty certain that all the attendees tonight know Pete, but for the ones maybe who don't, then Pete is not only the founder of PEMFiT, but he's also the co-founder of Optimal Hydration. Again, PEMFiT and Optimal Hydration are working together very nicely to increase your health as well. PEMFiT has been established now for 6 years, and it's growing everywhere in the UK. And PEMFiT has actually established 7 studios across the UK, so you can actually find the studios in different parts of the country. In terms of Stemregen, well, Stemregen has been founded by Christian Drapeau some 8 years ago now, but on the science that has been developed for more than 25 years. And Christian is definitely one of these fantastic pioneer scientists and herborist at the same time, which allows to offer some fantastic solution for the stem cell function of our body. But you'll get to hear this, very nicely. So I'm coming back to Pete. And why is it that Pete built PEMFiT a few years ago? It's because Pete, unfortunately, has suffered from many health conditions, degenerative ones as well, and chronic pain for, I think it is 35 years, Pete, right?
Sadly, yes.
And therefore, not having found any solutions, he decided simply to found PEMFiT and to use this technology to actually improve his sensations, destroy the pain, and make sure that his life could be much better, like many other people have witnessed already with PEMFiT solutions. So really, we want to make sure that you understand this webinar is for your information, and that some of you may want to actually carry this information. So it will also be available as a replay. So for the ones who are missing tonight, or for the ones who want to come back to some information that is going to be delivered, you will be able to access to the replay. So as many attendees are coming in now, I am simply repeating that we are welcoming them to this PEMFiT and Stemregen webinar, where we are going to talk again in 3 parts. First part on the stem cells, second part on the match between the PEMFiT technology and the Stemregen release product. And then we also, Pete will mention, I'm certain, how to optimize the hydration as well. And this synergy with Stemregen is absolutely fantastic. And we are glad, Pete, to have established this cooperation together. So thank you to welcome Pete to talk.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. We're very glad as well for the collaboration. And just a little bit of context from our side is that we provide, only recently, we're providing stem cell Stemregen release product in our studios. And but my interest in Christian's work actually started a couple of years ago. And Christian, I heard an excellent podcast with a friend and colleague of mine, Joe Lahote, probably about 2 years ago now. And I listened to it over and over because it was very relevant to my interest. And you talking about endogenous stem cell mobilization, and but also the connection with PEMF. And we use pulse PEMF technology. So this is whole body. This is high intensity. We can get a lot done quickly. So it really got me thinking. And I've been following your work around that area, and it really resonated with how we think about repair and recovery with the two different modalities. So I got the opportunity to visit Austin last year at the biohacking conference, and you were probably the busiest man in not just in the conference hall, but in Austin for a couple of days. But we managed to get some time to speak, and you confirmed what I thought, which was this potentially could be a great collaboration. So I was really interested. I bought a bunch of product. I tested it on myself, took it home with me back to the UK. But it was clear that we were aligned scientifically, but also philosophically as well. And that really was a strong connection. Also with your team as well. So we spoke, I think, every day with your team. And then we carried on the conversation in London at the Health Optimization Summit. We had some great meetings with your team. And it just became clear that this could be something that could really work. So it's a real pleasure to introduce Christian Drapeau, as Christian Tricoche has said, founder of Stemregen. And, you know, what I most respect, I think, about Christian is that whilst you're a deeply scientific person, you really focus on what helps people live their lives better and longer lives. And again, that really resonated with us. In our title, in our logo, is Energizing Life, and it's just such a great fit. So today, over to Christian. He's going to guide us through more detail of stem cells, how they function, why supporting the body's own repair mechanisms matters so much. And thank you both, Christians, and Christian Drapeau, over to you.
And before Christian Drapeau starts, I forgot to mention that obviously you can start asking your questions in the Q&A part of this webinar at the bottom, and we will be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions, and we will make sure we will answer them. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much for this kind introduction. I'm sharing my screen now. Do you see it? Is it showing up well? Very good. Very good.
Perfect.
Well, thank you for this introduction, Pete and Christian. For me, it's really interesting to talk about the synergy of stem cells and PEMF, because as hopefully you will understand as I go through this presentation, stem cell is really the core of human health. And anything that can support the role of stem cells in the body is going to create a nice synergy, not only with Stemregen release, but for just overall, quality of life and longevity. And of all the synergies that we could have with the idea of releasing stem cells, PEMF is probably the strongest. And you'll see that as I go through this presentation. So as I'm preparing this presentation, just a tidbit of a background. I'm right now in the heart of working on my next book, which is really understanding how stem cells play a crucial role, not only in repair, but also in disease formation. And essentially the title of the book at least the working title is Stem Cells, the Cause and Cure of Disease. And so I've included some of this in this presentation. So the idea is to give you now like a good understanding of really what is the world of stem cells. Because when we talk about stem cells, for most people, it's an injection. You go somewhere, you get an injection of stem cells with the idea that these are the only stem cells that really matter in your life. This, for sure, that these are the ones that you paid a lot of money for. And it's just really the tip of the iceberg. The science of stem cells goes so much deeper than this. And my attempt here in this short presentation is for you to realize that it's really, at the end of the day, it's the fundamental core of human health. And we develop problems because of a failure of repair. Actually, let me go there. I just pulled out this definition here. What is age-related disease as it is understood today? So you just go to ChatGPT or anywhere and you say, give me the definition with today's mainstream science of what is age-related disease. And it's essentially, a degenerative process that results from the progressive and functional deterioration of organs and tissues for various reasons, due or triggered by various causes. But essentially, it's this idea that as I age, more wear and tear develop, and my liver at 40, 50 years old is a 50-year-old liver. My heart, so on. All my tissues are aging, and disease is the impact of this process of aging on organs. And as you will see at the end of this presentation, stem cell brings a completely different understanding of this process of disease formation. Before I jump into the data, I would like to just I say scar your mind. I want to really impact your mind with a piece of information that I think is fundamental. It's the work of Doris Taylor. So she took the heart of a mouse, circulated on the cardiac muscle digestive enzymes that completely digested the muscle itself. So after 12 hours, they're left with just the soft skeleton of the heart, the connective tissue of the heart. And on that connective tissue that still retains the trace that it was a heart, they took stem cells from the bone marrow, from the animal's bone marrow, lay that on that connective tissue, and a week later, you get a beating heart in a test tube. Think about this. This is what your stem cells in your bone marrow can do. We're not talking here about rebuilding a heart. We're talking about things that are much simpler than this, but yet your own stem cells would have the ability to essentially rebuild a heart. So at times I hear question of people saying is this whole story about stem cells, is this real? And we need to understand the real question is not, are stem cells working? It's more, what stands in the way of stem cells in the body? What are the obstacles preventing this level of repair to retake place in the body? So we'll dive into keeping in mind the regenerative power of these stem cells. Let's see what is their role in the body. Because to me, the question that has always fascinated me in the world of stem cells is that we go for a stem cell injection and oftentimes, or stem cell treatment, and oftentimes these stem cells can come from your fat tissue, from your bone marrow, from your blood, V cells, dental pulp stem cells, hair follicle stem cells. There are various sources of stem cells in the body. So that means they are in the body to begin with. They're not better because we take them out and put them back in. So to me, the question that has fascinated me from the beginning in this whole world of stem cell research is, if stem cells have such an enormous regenerative potential, and they are already in the body, what is their role? What are they doing? And stem cells are essentially the body's repair system. So here's a very simple animation to show this process in the body. It's going to show it through a heart attack, but the same data exists with a stroke, with a bone fracture, burn to the skin, just any issue that you've had in your life. This process basically took place, which is in the following, let's say 10 to 12 hours after an injury somewhere, problem in a tissue, that organ is releasing compounds like GCSF, stem cell factor, interleukin-8. There's a few of them. They go all throughout the body, but when they reach the bone marrow, they will trigger the detachment of stem cells from the bone marrow environment, and these stem cells will be entrained in the bloodstream. So within 3 to 5 days after a significant injury, the number of stem cells in circulation can increase up to tenfold. Now, these stem cells circulate everywhere. They don't know exactly where it is that they need to go. So starting on the second day, the affected tissue release locally one specific compound called stromal-derived factor 1, SDF1. So in the same way that an infection attracts stem cells, SDF1 attracts immune cells, SDF1 attracts stem cells. So stem cells have a receptor for SDF1 on their membrane, and as soon as stem cells detect the presence of SDF1, it triggers the migration of stem cells into that tissue. Upon contact with cellular debris of that tissue, stem cells will proliferate, and then they will do one of two things, or both. They will release paracrine factors, compounds that will stimulate the stem cells endogenous resident to the tissue, or will proliferate and transform into cells of that tissue, literally repairing the tissue. So to me, I find it interesting that in the world of medicine, while every single human being on the planet has experienced that the body repairs, everybody has had a broken bone, a cut, a bruise, a burn, whatever in their life, and they've all witnessed that the body repairs. And yet in medicine, there's no language around repair because how the body does that was not really well understood. So something that is like so obvious in everybody's life, and until fairly recently, no clear understanding of how the body repairs. So we've seen now this is the repair system of the body. It's your stem cells. So there's various steps. The release of stem cells from the bone marrow, which then leads to more stem cells in circulation, their ability to reach the fine microvasculature, migration into tissue, proliferation, and then differentiation into cells of that tissue. Of all these steps, the one that has been shown to be the most significant is the release of stem cells from the bone marrow, the consequence of which is more stem cells in circulation. So what is the link between more stem cells in circulation and the ability of general health? And the first conclusion is that if you naturally have more stem cells in circulation, you will heal better. So you take two people with the same broken bone, the one that heals fast simply have more stem cells in circulation. Here's one example. This is a study in which doctors counted the number of stem cells in the bloodstream of people on the day of their heart attack. So they showed up to the hospital, and you can see both groups here have the same level of stem cells in their blood, but their ability to mobilize stem cells, ejection fraction. They have the same ejection fraction on the day of the heart attack, but when we look at them 6 months later and we separate them in two groups, people who had a lot of stem cells in circulation, people who had few stem cells in circulation, and you can see the difference here. There's about twice the improvement or the recovery in the group that simply had more stem cells in circulation. So similar studies have been done with strokes, with different kind of injuries. The conclusion here is we humans, just like we have different heights and a lot of parameters are different among peoples, the number of stem cells in circulation can vary significantly among individuals. We have seen in the lab some from, let's say, 0.05 stem cells per microliter up to 5 stem cells per microliter. That's 100-fold difference between somebody who's at the lower end and somebody who's at the higher end. So and I think it really represents the variety that we see in society of the people who repair really well, they maintain their health, and they have great longevity, and people who are plagued by a lot of various types of health problems. It has to do a lot with the number of stem cells in circulation, as you will see as we move forward. So if more stem cell means you can repair better, then it begs the question, what if we have a means of putting more stem cells in circulation? Could we stimulate the body's ability to repair and have an impact on the development of various kinds of diseases? The compound that we saw, I just briefly mentioned it in this animation, the compound that an injured tissue releases to trigger the release of stem cells from the bone marrow is GCSF. So in a lot of studies, what was utilized is injection of GCSF in animals to trigger the release of stem cells from the bone marrow and to see if we can change the course of a disease or stimulate tissue repair. So here is one of these studies. I'll show you just a few so that you get the picture. This is a study in which scientists did a knot to the coronary artery to trigger a heart attack in these animals. Then they let them recover. The control group, nothing was done. And for the experimental group, they injected GCSF and stem cell factor. The duo of these products here for 8 to 10 days will lead to a massive increase in the number of stem cells in circulation, up to like 100 to 200 fold. So massive release. So a month later, scientists looked at the heart of these animals, and in the control group, you can see significant scar tissue, no new blood vessels, 17% survival, and fairly severe signs of cardiomyopathy. If you look in the experimental group, all they had was more stem cells in circulation. You can see renewal of the ventricular wall, new functional blood vessels, 73% survival, and normalized cardiovascular function. In another study with a very similar protocol, we looked at another parameter, which is the size of the heart. When the heart gets enlarged, this is a sign of cardiomyopathy, and it's actually the hallmark of congestive heart failure. So you take the size of the heart, you inject GCSF, and you can see that the heart shrinks and gets back to its normal size just by releasing stem cells. Another consequence of a heart attack is fibrosis showing up in the heart. So you inject erythropoietin and GCSF, again, to trigger the release of stem cells from the bone marrow, and you can see the reduction in fibrosis. And if I put the amount of fibers here in yellow, you clearly see much less fibrosis. It's another consequence of heart attack that reduces heart function. So 3 studies here just to show that simply putting more stem cells in circulation can have a huge impact in supporting the repair of the heart. Here's another study. This is a breed of mouse that has been developed to spontaneously develop atherosclerosis after about 4 months of age. So in the control group, if nothing is done, I've circled here where you see that there's macrophage infiltration and inflammation of the arterial wall. Now you take the exact same breed of mice, and then you simply inject GCSF at about 2-3 months of age to trigger the release of their own stem cells, and you don't see the development of atherosclerosis. As an example, let me show a last example here with Parkinson. This is a study in which if you inject, so Parkinson in humans is the loss of cells making dopamine in one specific area of the brain. You can duplicate this in animals by injecting 6-hydroxydopamine in that area of the brain. It's called the substantia nigra, and it kills those neurons, and the animal will develop the expression of what it is for a mouse, Parkinson, which can be quantified in 2 ways, but one of the ways is to count how much time a mouse stands still in its cage. So normally it's about 10 seconds. So the mouse will move, stop, stand still about 10 seconds, then move again. The moment that you injected 6-hydroxydopamine, the mouse has lost coordination and will stay still more than a minute in its reluctance and inability to move, lack of coordination. If you treat the mice with L-Dopa carbidopa, which is the normal treatment in humans to restore dopamine function in these neurons, you see an improvement. If you inject GCSF that triggers the release of stem cells in the animals, from the animal's bone marrow, you can see almost a normalization of the condition. To quantify the actual loss of coordination, they use a very ingenious trick. They put a piece of tape on the nose of the mice, and they counted how much time it took for the mouse to take it off. So it's a clear measure of the dexterity of the mouse, which is lost when tremor and imbalance or lack of coordination develop. So you can see here in the control group, at 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks after the injection of the trigger of Parkinson. Now, in the control group with Parkinson, you see the evolution of the loss of coordination. After 2 weeks, it takes about 25 seconds to remove this piece of tape. With L-DOPA, carbidopa, it's the same profile, but it's slowed down. But when you release the animals on stem cells, you see brain damage and what looks like repair. And I'll show you a case in humans a little bit later. So I've chosen those 3 conditions, heart, arteries, and Parkinson. I can show you the exact same data with diabetes, with Alzheimer's, with liver failure, with COPD, almost any type of condition that has been studied, you can show a benefit by triggering the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. So the answer is yes. If you support the release of stem cells from the bone marrow, you can improve health condition. You may ask the question as to why is this GCSF injection has not been used in human if we have such great results in animals. And the main reason is that GCSF can have fairly significant side effects in humans if used at the concentration that has been shown to show these kinds of benefits in animals. And if you lower the dose and you don't go as high, the result is much, much less. So it's been done in humans. So all of this work was done in the early, let's say 2000, between 2000 and 2010. So on the basis of this data, a lot of minds went to look for what would be then an alternative to tap into stem cell repair by taking stem cells from other sources. And that's how developed fat-derived stem cells, umbilical cord stem cells, other types of stem cells, knowing that when you release your own, it works, but the ways of releasing them are not necessarily safe. And I'm saying this because when we talk later about how we have discovered plants that do this stem cell mobilization, but in a manner that is safe, then it sort of brings back all that science and making it possible in a way that is safe. Now, to finish the whole picture, the last part that is relevant to understand when we look at the number of stem cells in circulation is the third conclusion, which to me is the most relevant. Because when we talk about longevity, disease formation, that's the one that we're talking about. The first two say more stem cells means you can do better. If I trigger the release of stem cells, you can do even better. The third one says if naturally you happen to have fewer stem cells in circulation, that means you are at risk for developing various problems. And this was discovered when scientists were doing various studies. So the typical study to show the role of stem cells in tissue repair is to irradiate an animal, which kills all the stem cells. Then you inject fluorescent stem cells that have a protein called the green fluorescent protein, or the gene for that protein. So that means that stem cells will make green fluorescent protein. So you shed a light on it, it glows green. But if that stem cells goes, let's say, in the pancreas and becomes 2,000 pancreatic cell, you shed a light on the pancreas and you'll see all these cells glowing green. So you can identify them in the tissue. So the typical study that was done to investigate what's the role of stem cells in tissue repair is to irradiate mice, inject fluorescent stem cells, and then trigger an injury somewhere in the body and monitor the recovery of that tissue with the inclusion of green cells in these tissues, meaning these cells were derived from stem cells. And as these studies were done, what quite quickly became obvious is that while stem cells primarily go to the site of the injury, if you give it enough time, a few months, you are going to see green cells everywhere in the body, meaning that while they go to a place where there is tissue damage, they play another role of tissue renewal and tissue maintenance in the background. This was confirmed in human as well, when we looked at women who received bone marrow transplant from a male compatible donor. So instead of now injecting stem cells that are green, we inject stem cells with the Y chromosome. So we can find the Y chromosome in the body. And in the same way, when you make an autopsy on a woman who has died, let's say 10, 20 years, 5 years after a bone marrow transplant, you start to see Y chromosome cells everywhere in the body. And that led to various investigation. I'm going to mention one of these studies because I think it's just fascinating, that really allowed to reveal this phenomenon, which is fascinating because to me, it changes completely our understanding of aging, and yet even today it is nowhere in medicine. And it's a study that was done by using a very interesting phenomenon of nature, which is the fact that the level of radioactive carbon in the atmosphere has been close to zero during our entire evolution as a species until the early 1950s with the tests for nuclear bombs, and then the level of reactive carbon rose sharply in the atmosphere. And after the end of all this testing with a ban on above ground nuclear testing, then CO2 slowly disappeared from the atmosphere through diffusion in the stratosphere, but also being absorbed through photosynthesis by the biomass on Earth. And through this process of photosynthesis, the way that it works is that plants will absorb CO2, will include them into their own food chain, into their material, which we will eat, or an animal will eat it, and then we will eat the animal. In other way, when I eat a protein that has been made by, or carbs, doesn't matter. When I eat something from a plant that is made of carbon, the level of radioactive carbon in that food reflects the level of radioactive carbon that was in the atmosphere. So if I have a cell in my body that is dividing today and it needs to make new DNA, well, this DNA will be made with carbon that came in my body through diet. So the amount of radioactive carbon that is inserted into this new filament of DNA will reflect the amount of radioactive carbon that is present in the atmosphere. So if I take a cell, let's say for the heart, because the first study was done in the heart. In medicine, the heart is believed to be what they call a post-mitotic organ, meaning after the first few years of growth, what you have in your heart is what you have for your life. If you lose a heart cell, too bad for you. You cannot make new heart cells. Your heart is what you have for life. So if that's the case, then if we take somebody who's born around the 1960s, and then we look at what is the amount of radioactive carbon in that filament of DNA, then you can age that DNA, age when that cell was born. So if they're all born in the first 10 years of life, then you support this concept that your heart cannot repair. But if you see new heart cell during the entire life of an individual, then that tells you that no, your heart is constantly in a process of tissue turnover. Conclusion of that study, you have about 1% a year of renewal in the heart, which is massive when we look at the ability of the heart to renew. And as you look at all tissues in the body, because this was done now to look at various tissues, and what we see is that every single tissue of the body is constantly through a process of tissue turnover. Although we look like we're not changing a lot, every organ is constantly into this dynamic process. Now, this is the reality of the body. There's another reality here that shows the other side of the equation. We are born with red marrow that makes stem cells, and very early in life, red marrow converts into fatty marrow that does not make stem cells. So the number of by age 30, we have lost about 70% of our red marrow, which corresponds to roughly about a 90% decline in the number of stem cells in circulation. So this graphic here is conceptual. I'm trying to keep it fairly accurate with numbers, but it's conceptual in the sense that this is essentially the dynamic of the number of stem cells in circulation as we age. It's a pretty dramatic decline. That's your power to repair. In the background, tissue turnover continues. And I will even say losing cells goes faster as we age because now it's tissue turnover with wear and tear, oxidative stress, inflammation, environmental toxins, proteostasis that goes down, telomere length that is shortening. So all of these factors makes the loss of cells even more, faster. So that means the deficit between these two is the growing risk of developing problems. You lose cells every day. If you don't have enough cells to replace them, there's a point you start to accumulate a deficit. We all experience this time when we don't have enough stem cells to really face sudden challenge to the body when you do some physical activity that you have done many times before in your teens and your 20s, and now in your 40s you do the same activity and you just don't recover as fast as you used to. And that's simply because we don't have as many stem cells. So this whole concept that the decline in the number of stem cells in circulation is actually the cause of disease formation, meaning if I lose cells in my pancreas and I don't have enough stem cells to offset this whole process, then I will develop the disease associated with the pancreas, diabetes, and so on. So as I published this whole idea in 2013, in this article, I say there's a way to test if this is true. Let's count the number of stem cells in the bloodstream of people who have developed various kinds of age-related disease, and let's compare that with people of the same age who are healthy. And if you look at all these health conditions right now, studies have been done for all these health conditions. Everyone with these problems statistically has 50% or less than the number of stem cells that we find in a healthy person of the same age. So you take everything that I've told you right now, and it's basically leading us to this general conclusion here that we can change the definition here of age-related disease, which is essentially a failure of endogenous repair. It's basically when you no longer have enough stem cells to offset the normal process of tissue turnover, then you start to accumulate a deficit. The amount of the deficit, or where you are with your stem cell number versus the stress that your body is going through, is giving you almost like this, I would say, this bank of resilience. If you have more stem cells in circulation, you can face things that are happening to you or to your body. If you don't, then it basically puts you down very easily. So the whole conclusion of all of this is simply more stem cells in circulation means that more stem cells are available to participate to tissue repair or this overall process of tissue renewal that is taking place every day. So all of this being said, let's go now and talk about how we can increase the number of stem cells in circulation. So my start into this whole industry, so far so good, Pete?
Perfect. Fascinating.
Okay.
So much information. Thank you.
Thank you. So I started in this whole industry in 1995. I was hired to study a plant that you see here to your left, Aphanisum amphlos aqua, in short AFA. It's a blue-green algae that grows naturally in southern Oregon in the United States. And a company was selling this product. New laws have just been passed in America, forcing companies selling products to have science to back up any of the claims that they would use. So I was hired to document the benefits of this plant to support all these marketing claims. So I started with an overview of the benefits that people had reported to see, like, what are the big buckets in which I can put these benefits. So if somebody says, my knee pain is much better, the other one, my elbow, my shoulder, my hip, swelling is better, then I put all of this in the bucket of inflammation. So in this way, there were clearly three big buckets: inflammation, immune support, and mental clarity. There was something with the mind. So very quickly, we identified the active compound and the mechanism of action for the effect on immunity, inflammation, and there's a mind-boosting molecule that is produced by AFA, phenylethylamine, known in chemistry as the molecule of love. So it explained a lot of the benefits that we have seen over the years. But as I'm doing this work, I came across people reporting significant improvement in cases like multiple sclerosis, severe emphysema, Parkinson, Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes. And not only the extent of these benefits was impressive, but over time, it was the broad variety of these benefits. It looked like this product was doing something in someone's heart, someone else's liver, someone else's lung, pancreas. The variety of the benefits was such that I was unable to explain how this was working. Some of these cases, I had access to the medical file. It was clear this product was doing something out of the ordinary, but we did not know how. So I'll skip all the details, but in early 2001, the idea came after being exposed to some articles in the scientific literature that it looked like stem cells were the repair system of the body. So we published that first article in 2001 in a journal called Medical Hypotheses, suggesting that stem cells are the repair system of the body. And my thought was, what if this plant, just like you have plants stimulating the immune system, what if this plant was stimulating the repair system? So we acquired a flow cytometer that allows us to count stem cells in the bloodstream. And very quickly, we discovered that this is what the plant was doing. You consume it, and within about an hour, we can quantify a significant increase in the number of circulating stem cells. So the first few years we spent documenting the mechanism of action, the active molecule, the proof of concept. We did all this work. Then we launched this first product on the marketplace in 2005. But then I continued in my investigation to see, like, what other plants would have this effect. I mean, it cannot be that we evolve in symbiosis with the environment and there's only one plant having an effect on stem cells. So I looked at any plant, or many plants, I should say, that had been historically documented to be associated with many types of health benefits. If I were to ask you which one comes to mind, immediately you would think like medicinal mushroom, goji berries, adaptogens, things like this. So we tested many of those. They all have an effect on stem cells. But the real discoveries is when I had a chance, as I was traveling worldwide in some remote areas of the world, looking for these kinds of plants, I had a chance to go to Madagascar. And in Madagascar, there is one specific species of aloe that has been used for centuries to produce a local product called Vahona that has been used for all kinds of health problems. So I was able to get a sample, we tested it, and it was triggering a massive release of stem cells from the bone marrow. So we have tested against a lot of different other types of aloe, and the effect was very specific to that species, although over the years now we have identified other source, specific extract of aloe vera that can do the same thing. But the simple gel aloe vera does not do it. So there's a reason why in Madagascar, they have used specifically that species. At some point, I'm traveling in China, and something really drew my attention to sea buckthorn berry. So I dove into scientific literature, and in a fascinating way, sea buckthorn berry has been used in Mongolian medicine, Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine for more than 2,000 years for disease of the lung, of the heart, the cardiovascular system, the pancreas, and to speed up recovery from bone fracture or burn to the skin. So you look at the spread of these benefits, and it's kind of suggesting here an effect on stem cells. So I went on the Tibetan plateau. I started to develop a relationship with a farmer. So we developed an extract of sea buckthorn berry, tested it, and we have a significant increase in the number of circulating stem cells. So we got the same thing with some seaweed. We got the same thing with Panax notogensin. We've tested many. These are the 5 top stem cell mobilizers that we have seen over the years. So we have blended them into a product that is called Stemregen Release. And essentially, you take 2 capsules of Stemregen and you will roughly double the number of stem cells in circulation. For an average 50-year-old, this is 10 to 20 million stem cells. So that is why we say you take 2 capsules and you will release about 10 million stem cells. For a younger person, it's going to be more. So essentially, we double the number of stem cells in circulation. So now what we have truly is that, quite simply, the product itself doesn't do anything miraculous for any health condition. All that we're doing is that we're giving back to the body its innate ability to repair that it had a few years ago. Go back to all the studies that we talked about with GCSF, which is exactly what it was doing, giving back the body its ability to repair. GCSF had significant side effects. The difference here is that GCSF is something that we do for a few days, because if you do too long, it has serious side effects. Here, it's something that you can do every day. The power, the magnitude of the release is much less. It's a much, much more moderate release, but you can do it every day over long periods of time. So we started to do a number of clinical trials to see what is the real impact of releasing your stem cells. We have no desire to promote the product for specific diseases. All that we wanted to say is, if this whole story is true, that more stem cells in circulation means your body can, on its own, repair better, and these plants that act as stem cell mobilizers can then therefore really support the body's ability to repair. Let's see what it means in a condition like congestive heart failure. So we have seen in the past a lot of benefits with, I'm sorry here, the lines did not transfer well. The numbers. Can you see the numbers? You probably cannot see the numbers. Let me do something like very quickly. At least you'll be able to see.
Then we can see them
easily.
now.
Yeah, there you go. So you won't see all the lines, but at least the numbers will be clear. There There you go. So this is people with at least 2 years of stable congestive heart failure. So they have heart issues for much longer, but these are the last 2 years. It's in a stable condition. It's been able to be controlled with whatever tools that medicine has. And we come in and then we simply give these individuals 2 capsules 3 times a day. So 3 times a day, we trigger these waves of stem cell release that the body can utilize to repair. And as you can see, the average before was 42%. The average, so a 20% increase in injection fraction in pretty much every single participant. These are the 10 first participant of a larger trial that we're doing. So the first 10 participants, all of them had normal heart function after 6 months. So just to show the power of what it can do in the body when you give back a person its own ability to repair. Here's a case of Parkinson that this is a few years ago, but it was an attorney. So he was, at the time, this is 15 years of evolution. At that time, he was not able to really, he can walk, but he's not self-confident. He's afraid he's going to fall. So he stopped walking, which led to some muscle atrophy. So he's not really stable to walk. He can no longer work on his computer, write, eat. He put foods all over the place. So these 2 videos were before, and then the rest of the videos that you will see after are 6 weeks after taking 2 capsules 3 times a day, which has become really sort of the protocol if we really want to address anything that means significant repair in the body. So you can see how he's putting his watch right now with the hand that was shaking. If you look carefully, you'll see there's still some tremor, still involuntary movements, but in terms of quality of life, I mean, the life of this man is massively different. And this is a study that we have started on Parkinson, exactly the same as what we do for congestive heart failure. And these are the results on various parameters touching Parkinson. So sleep disturbance, balance, anxiety, depression, overall quality of life. And it's a difference of anywhere between 40 to 60% of any one of these parameters. Here's the last case that I want to show you. Again, I don't want to say here that Stemregen release can resolve these issues. All that I want to say is that if we give back the body its ability to repair, the body has a significant ability to repair. So this is a 15-year-old case of spinal cord injury. She was pushed out of a car on the highway by your boyfriend at the time. So spinal cord injury, brain injury. She can move her right leg to some extent. When we ask her to move the left one, there is 0 movement on the left leg. It's the right that starts moving. So then she started to take the same regimen, and she went to what would be the equivalent of 4 capsules 3 times a day. This is 8 months later. So it's movement in both legs, bending at the knees, lateral movement, and 2 months after. She says, come and see my bedroom, what I can do. So you start with somebody who is ringing a bell to be able to turn in her bed to basically being able through better pelvic muscle, abdominal muscle, arm muscle, back muscle, like everything is slowly regaining, no physical therapy, nothing. So the point here is, let's imagine in today's world, if we simply say, as we mentioned before, the development of problems is the consequence of a failure of endogenous repair. If we give back to the body its ability to repair, what could it mean, in terms of added with other modalities, which then leads us to the discussion. Oh, the last one, wounds. I just want to show this one because put aside disease, put aside everything. Let's just talk about the heart of what we're talking about here, which is repair. So this is an injury where somebody was trying to open a floor with a round saw. It bounced and landed on his thigh. So it's about 20 centimeters long, 2-3 centimeters deep. So it's in the muscle. So the doctor told him it'll take 4 to 6 weeks before he can stand on his leg normally, and another 4 to 6 weeks before he can walk normally. So he took literally 2 capsules every 2-3 hours throughout the day around the clock. And this is him at 8 days. And this is the scars at 16 days. This is a better scar than a lot of C-sections done in a controlled manner with a scalpel, just to show that there's a direct link between how many stem cells in circulation and the body's ability to repair in the most efficient way. If you don't have enough stem cells, fibrosis develop, which is scars on your skin. It's cardiac remodeling in the heart. It's liver fibrosis if it's in the liver. If you don't have enough stem cells in circulation, you get fibrosis. You have enough stem cells in circulation, your organs and tissues can normally repair. So that's also one of the conclusions to draw from all of this. So if we go back to the general process that I talked about, the signal released by the organ after an injury, triggering the release of stem cells from the bone marrow, meaning more stem cells in circulation. They need to migrate and be recruited by the tissue where they proliferate and differentiate. The main effect here, forget the signaling here, the main effect and the role of stem cells is how well they're released, how well they circulate, how well they can migrate in the tissue, how well they can proliferate and differentiate in the tissue. These are all the parameters of tissue repair. And let's see where PEMF leads us for this. Circulation. A study has shown that if you put one leg on a PEMF mat and then you measure the microcirculation in both legs, you get all the parameters linked to circulation are improved in the leg that was exposed to PEMF. If you look at stem cells' ability to migrate across a broad range of frequencies at 1 millitesla, which is somewhat, it's not super high, but it's about an average. It's not my field here, but I think it's an average dose of what can be used in treatments. You can see an improvement in migration. Paracrine effect. This is the way that stem cells can locally release compounds that is going to stimulate the power of the tissue to repair on its own by using intrinsic stem cells to the tissue. Each tissue has its own stem cell layer. So a stem cell gets in a tissue and then stimulate the stem cells of that tissue through the release of paracrine factors. So 2 studies have shown that PEMF basically boosts the production of these paracrine factor. And a lot of scientists will say that the real power of stem cells to repair is all about their ability to stimulate this paracrine effect. We looked at proliferation. Even if you were to expose stem cells in a test tube to PEMF, it triggers the formation of bone cells, muscle cells, tendon, ligaments, so everything that is known for a joint. So there's a reason why PEMF has been used for joint health, sport medicine for so many years. Pain, it's because at the core, it triggers the conversion of stem cells into cells of those tissues, like connective tissue. And in differentiation, okay, that's the one I was talking about here. So it stimulates proliferation, what we've seen before, but differentiation into cells that are essential for the healing of those types of tissues. Many studies in that area. And overall, simply using stem cells injection and PEMF is leading to benefits that are superior to any one of these approaches made alone. And based on everything that we have said before, now you understand why combining them works so well. It's because PEMF, its main effect is to leverage stem cells in the body. So depending on how many stem cells you naturally have in your body, this will be the extent by which PEMF can help you. But if you put more stem cells in circulation, then PEMF will have way more leverage in the body. Likewise, if you use just stem cells for any kind of joint issue, muscle, tendon, ligaments, without PEMF, well, stem cells will do the best that they can. The moment you add PEMF to this, you basically boost the stem cells that you just introduced into the body. So there's a whole white paper that has been published on this. I'm reading one sentence here. So this paper explores science of PEMF and at PEMFiT and the release of stem cells using Stemregen. So it's scientifically proven, we talked about Stemregen. So Stemregen release is designed to assist the body's there you go. To assist the body's stem cells to do what they are meant to do, repair and renew. Ultimately, Stemregen protocol coupled with PEMFiT may provide a powerful synergistic strategy to restore the body's innate repair capacity. So you will all have access to that white paper. Pete can tell you where to get it, but the main idea here of the protocol, and with everything that we have seen, you can understand that very simply. You take Stemregen release, you will have within 2-3 hours you'll double the number of stem cells in circulation. So that's your time frame, 2-3 hours, where you want to have your PMF treatment, because now it's going to drive stem cell to a specific area and stimulate the role of tissue repair in that area. So it becomes a super simple protocol that is easy to understand. So that's what I had prepared, Pete. So I will stop it there and then give it back to you, or maybe you have some questions.
Christian, on behalf of everybody watching, thank you so much for that. You covered a huge amount of material in a short period of time. You really are one of the best speakers I've ever heard, and especially on this subject, you are the master of it. So thanks for everything that you've covered there. You've covered so much about the benefits of stem cells, how vital they are. It's incredible to see the drop off. I was looking at, at the age 40, it's something like, relatively speaking, 5 to 10% from what I could see from the graph,
Correct,
on a relative basis. And at age 30, and it seems to drop off rapidly from the age 15. So it's just incredible. Interestingly, with what we see, we work on a practical level in studios. We're seeing thousands of clients now across the UK, and we're working on cells. We know that there's an impact with supporting the body's endogenous production of stem cells, especially when we're working on those areas of the body that have the most marrow to get these out. Circulation is improved, as you've said, but also the migration and signaling. And I think what the presentation strongly shows is how using the two products together really maximizes the output. What I love about your product is it is a natural plant-based product, very well tested compounds, and with lots of data around them. And, as we spoke about in London, one modality and the other, you add 1 + 1 is not necessarily 2. It's a bigger number. And this is what's so exciting about combining the two modalities of PEMF and Stemregen release. It's just such a beautiful combination. So thank you, and thank you for covering so much. I do know also that there's some new material in that, which anyone watching, it's probably the first time some of this has been shown, and presumably some of it is from your new book. I was also particularly interested in the impact on myocardial tissue as well, because as you mentioned briefly, because you ran through things quickly, but this is something that supposedly can't happen. So there's data showing that myocardial tissue can repair itself, and that there are modalities that can support that. That's incredibly exciting, because I know it's something that a lot of people are concerned about.
It's amazing, Pete. In the study that we're doing, the biggest challenge that we have is patients are part of the study. And patients are part of the study. They see some benefits on their own. When they go and see their neurologist and they mention that, oh, I'm part of that study, or their cardiologist, I'm part of that study. And the doctors tell them almost invariably, oh, you're wasting your time. The brain cannot repair. You're wasting your time. The heart cannot repair. And many of them drop. So the biggest challenge of the study is to keep people in the study, because medicine tells everybody today, no, these organs cannot repair.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it's you've shown some case studies there, and it's really fascinating to see real results, and much quicker than would otherwise be expected, and that's an understatement. Again, we're working on cells, and we're mainly working on circulation, but also the potential across the cell voltage, and the production of ATP, the energy currency, supporting mitochondrial function. So presumably, and a quick question from me to you, and then I'm going to hand over to Christian Tricoche for any questions we may have, because I'm conscious of time. But presumably, more ATP within a cell, which we can derive again endogenously through the use of, I call them big nature machines, which is a big PMF systemic PMF system, with the circulation and a combination of the benefit of Stemregen and the significant 10 million more stem cells in circulation. additional stem cells 2 to 3 hours after taking just 2 capsules. Presumably, this is also a very good combination.
It is an amazing combination. Now, the PMF traditionally, and so my background is brain research. So the role of membrane potential in a nervous system, but even actually in every cells of the body is absolutely crucial. The cell will utilize, it's almost like each cell is a small battery and it maintains its own electrical differences between the membrane to be utilized to do different work. So the cells build this own electrical battery for itself and then uses it. And if you don't have enough ATP, the cell cannot do this for itself, and it's kind of shut down in its ability to do whatever the cell does. So PMF is amazing for that. So there's no question. But we need to think of the role of a stem cell. So all cells need that. But a stem cell, when it gets into a tissue, needs to become, let's say, 100,000 tissue cells to make a difference. Otherwise, a cell moving into a tissue is a bucket is a drop in the ocean. Like, it's not relevant. It's one stem cell suddenly amplifying and becoming millions of cells that makes a difference. This amplification is probably, it's never been quantified because it's too new, probably the greatest metabolic demand of the body. So PMF could be, by bringing this energy boost to the cells, could be one of the reasons why its effect is so significantly on stem cells.
Thank you so much for that. I have a bunch more questions, but I'm not going to ask them because I'm going to hand over now to Christian Tricoche. Christian, do you have any questions on the Q&A?
Yes,
I
we
see
do.
quite a few in there. So
we do.
would you like to make a start, please?
Yes, I'm going to make a start straight away. So the first question comes from Peter. He says, is Stemregen and osteoarthritis plus PEMF a good fit, and why?
I mean, yes, it is. The why is not very clear, other than to say from a mechanism of action, it's not clear other than from a clinical observation. Stem cells have been shown to have out of the ordinary results for rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis. So cases of people with significant joint, let's say the condition is fairly advanced, sometimes with even deformed hands and feet, and we have seen the problem resolving to a degree that, quite frankly, I'm scratching my head in terms of finding a real mechanism of action there. But it's been seen. If we talk about a mechanism of action, and again, it's not going to be probably a satisfactory answer, but the best way that I can explain it is stem cells have your own blueprint of what should be a well-functioning joint. And when you start to engage this process, it reshapes the tissue more in line to where it should be in a healthy way, because we have seen bone outgrowth, resorbing. I've seen cyst. I've seen things that early on I thought stem cells only grow tissue, so it will not have any effect on any condition that is affected by some form of tissue remodeling, if you want. And it's not the case. We have seen the benefits. I don't have a good explanation for it, but yes, it's been seen.
Well, it's actually linked to the second question from Nicola. Can additional stem cells help repair historical damage and scar tissue?
Of course. And again, when I say, I would like for a moment to have yourself be in my shoes. When I saw these things, I was incredulous. I saw these things, I said, wait a minute, this can't be. And as I dug more and more into it, I had no other choice than to accept that it was what was happening. And then the number of cases have made me accept it now quite easily. But I understand at first it's something that is hard to swallow. If you've got a scar that has been there for 30 years, what can suddenly change that scar? And I think from a pure mechanism of action, I think we need to understand many scars are still active, physiologically active, decades after the injury. We can see this by just taking the pulse, for example, and then touching the pulse of the person that has the scar. And then you touch the scar with a pen, a piece of paper, and within about a second or two, you'll see a drop in the pulse because the sudden release of adrenaline will lead to a shutdown of blood pressure. So you'll feel it. So now you know that this scars that looks a scar now for a few decades, not changing, is actually physiologically active. So take Stemregen release by putting more stem cells in circulation, brush that scar by activating it physiologically, add PMF to that area, and I would not be surprised, because I've seen it, to the scar improving significantly.
Thank you for that. May I just add a little bit to that?
Yes.
What's exciting also is we're not just talking about external scar, which obviously is very obvious. We're talking about internal scarring. It could be endothelium scarring, vascular, in other words, or other organ system scarring. So we're talking about scar tissue right through the body, and not necessarily caused by surgeries or injuries. This could be other types of scarring, such as atherosclerosis. And on the question of OA, osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmunity, and the link with PEMF, we see a lot of this as well. And the combination of that in terms of dampening down autoimmunity by mainly addressing the gut and gut integrity, which we can do non-invasively with PEMF. We're passing PEMF through the gut. Largely associated, it appears, with autoimmunity, and the combination of the two, with Stemregen, increased stem cells, but also supporting the integrity of the tight junctions in the gut lining, really have, we've seen some real benefits with that. So it's exciting what we're going to see now, combining with clients that are taking Stemregen. So sorry.
You said something interesting, Pete. Just 1 second, and I'm saying this not as a response to you, but to take back everything that we've talked about with stem cells here in a bigger context. When you say you can get fibrosis, not necessarily when there's an injury like atherosclerosis and in the arteries, but I think that this novel understanding of stem cells, it is telling us actually that no, it's also injury based. It's just that there's many times we miss how things are starting. We go to the consequence of the injury. You go to the atherosclerosis, the calcification. We go to pain management, where we manage the signal, and we forget that the start of all these process is an injury that is not repairing.
Yes.
And the attempt of the body to repair it in an absence of proper endogenous repair is to create fibrosis.
Yes. And I will just... I've learned lots today, but one of the things that I was thinking when you were talking about is the production of fibrin, which obviously is required, but we don't want too much of it. So this could even be a chronic disease. I had long COVID over the summer, and we produce a lot of fibrin, and it's not good for microclotting. So I didn't actually know that Stemregen can be so beneficial for supporting the reduction of excessive fibrin leading to fibrosis. So even within the blood and microclotting, from what I'm understanding, but that was particularly interesting to me.
Thank you for these
Christian?
answers. Yeah, we have many more questions. We've got a very participative group, so we'll have to ask a little bit of patience to everyone who's
go quick.
Requested some questions. So, do genetic and epigenetic differences explain why some people seem to respond more quickly? Question from Nicola.
Probably, but I'm not aware of any work that has been done here that can provide an answer. Yes, the response could have a lot of can be tied to genetics. I will say that as of today, the response is probably more, not so much in the mobilization, but once the stem cell have been mobilized, how is the health of the microvasculature to deliver these stem cells? A stem cell can be up to 30 micron, your capillary is 12 micron. So you can release them, but they may not be able to reach the area that has some sort of chronic problem. The chronic nature of the problem has damaged the microvasculature as well. If that micro injury in that region has not been repaired, that means it's constantly releasing inflammatory signal. So these signals become systemic, and now they screw up the ability of stem cells to really find where the problem is. So there are a lot of things that can stand in the way for the proper role of stem cells in the body that have nothing to do with, well, it's not true that it has nothing to do with genetics. What I mean is, like, you see all the layers that there could be in genetic expression because it touches so many different aspects of basic physiology. But on the effect on stem cells itself, could very well be, but I'm not aware.
But there is a link with degenerative diseases, though. So, stem cell function So because we have the question, for example, on macular degeneration. So consuming, increasing the number of stem cells does have an impact, and with PEMFiT as well, could that work?
My experience over the years, just as much as I was surprised how much benefits we see in the heart and things like Parkinson, I would have expected to see things on macular degeneration, and we have not seen a whole lot. It's one condition with ALS where even prospectively, kidney failure is the same. Prospectively, we've tried it, and I don't know, there's something that seems to be not standing in the way of getting benefits in that area. So for these specific conditions, the results are a little bit more mitigated. But to answer the question also with a little bit of distance, I mentioned it in the presentation. I did not have a time to really make a big deal out of it. But when I say disease is really the result of a failure of endogenous repair, that's really the nature of the books. I took this and I started to ask the question, what is it? It's good as a big statement, but how does it materialize in the heart, in the kidney, in the pancreas, in the lung, in the skin, in the vascular system? And as you go deep and you see how this materializes itself, we realize that it's profound. Every single problem is the result of a failure of endogenous repair, which touches the entire system. I won't go into the detail, but like in the pancreas, diabetes may not be just renewing pancreatic cells, but it has to do a lot with renewing the angiogenesis, all the microvasculature of the pancreas that is highly dependent upon the microvasculature to function properly, things like this. But at the end of the day, the failure of endogenous repair is an underlying cause of just about anything happening in the body. In that way, it could have an effect on macular degeneration if it's coupled with something else. PMF could be. Alone, we've not seen great results.
It will be interesting to see the combination of PMF and Stemregen, because eye health in general, one of the most common feedback we get from clients, in addition to I'm sleeping really well, is they may come for a knee problem, and we don't treat, diagnose, cure anything because we're wellness, but they'll say, "Why is my eyesight improved?" And my generic answer is, "What are your eyes made of?" Cells. My own eyesight improved, as verified by my optician through a scan. They're saying your eye quality and health has improved, and one of the major benefits of PMF, especially systemically, we can apply this the whole body, so including the eyes. So we're not just addressing it in one part of the body at once. So people may come for a knee, but we generally start off whole body. They notice an improvement in eyesight. We have actually had one client who was discharged from their eye clinic with wet macular degeneration. Her husband has a clinical background. He's a consultant as well. He was very surprised at this particular client. But eyesight improvement in general. But one of the main mechanisms is dilation of blood vessels through endogenous increased nitric oxide production. And also countering rouleau effects, so sticky blood, clumping of red and white blood cells. And you were speaking to this earlier on, Christian, about the relative size of cells versus capillaries or microcirculation. If nutrition and circulation cannot get into these parts of the body, which is, I believe, well over 100 miles of the body, and this is something that is age-related and lifestyle-related, and probably epigenetic as well, factors. Increasing circulation through these countering rouleau with this big grounding effect that we get with PMF, combined with Stemregen and this huge increase in stem cells, I would be surprised if we didn't see improved results.
The next question, if your bone marrow is releasing stem cells, how do we look after the health of our bone marrow? And can we deplete the bone marrow too much from releasing too much stem cells? It's a very common question.
Yeah. You cannot deplete your bone marrow by releasing more stem cells. There's so many different angles to answer this question. It's not the same, but it's a little bit like if I'm an athlete and I increase my heartbeat regularly, am I going to run out of heartbeat? Like your bone marrow is made, it's powerfully capable to maintain homeostasis. So when you release 10 million stem cells, you're not lacking 10 million stem cells in your bone marrow. There's a process of cellular division that is taking place prior to release where the population of cells in the bone marrow remains relatively constant. What is happening is that it shrinks. So this is age dependent. It's not dependent upon use. So it shrinks, but the amount of red marrow that is left just produces stem cells. The more you ask, the more it produces. And a way, I mean, two ways, two angle through which we can look at this is to look at the population of individuals that is releasing a lot of stem cells are athletes, professional athletes, or any athletes that is really doing a lot of intense physical activity. This will trigger the release of stem cells. You can easily double the number of stem cells in circulation after intense physical activity, and this is essentially it's a repair response. After micro lesions in your organs, then you trigger a repair response. So are athletes running out of stem cells? We don't see any parameter whatsoever that has anything to do with the health of the bone marrow, because these individuals have triggered the release of stem cells through this repair process, every day of their lives. The plant extract that have been used, shown to trigger the release of stem cells from the bone marrow. Some of them have been used for centuries, thousands of years. And historically, none of them have been associated with any kind of side effects that could be pointing to something with stem cells. So this phenomenon has not been seen in medicine so far.
Thank you. That was a question from Stevie. Julia's asking a couple of questions. Can this repair the natural damage that aging does? And can this work preventively to stop damage? Or is it best to save for when there is damage, especially given the very high price?
It's a very interesting question, because it's a question that comes from the angle of how the first definition that I provided of an age-related disease, which is aging starts and developed. And what we need to understand is that aging does not start and develop. It's our ability to repair that goes down. That's when we experience this phenomenon that we call aging. So now you take back the question, and it's obvious. If I give back to the body its ability to repair as when I was younger, then of course it will have an impact on how I experience aging. And in this whole concept, when we talk about the overall endogenous ability of the body to repair, then I'm not thinking about the one thing that is bothering me right now, and I'm going to wait to take it when I have like one specific thing to repair. There's not such a thing in the body as one thing. That one thing is associated with the support system in the body. The entire body participates to the proper functioning of that organ. So it's when we keep the overall endogenous ability to repair strong that the problem might actually not show up, because it's compensated by the overall ability of the body to repair. So essentially, the word that is coming out of this new book that I'm working on is resilience. Resilience is a measure of how many stem cells you have in your body, how much stem cells have maintained your body in a place where it can respond to pressure. And so you want to do this before the problem shows up. So to me, it's a day-to-day process. Or at least if it's a cost issue, let's say you're going to do this, 3 times a year. For a month, release your stem cells for a month, and then after that you can pause if cost is an issue. I'm thinking past 60, to me, it's something that everybody should do every day. It will completely change the experience of quality of life of people when we start to do this.
Thank you. We hope, Julia, for everyone who's asking questions, that we answer to your questions? I'm pretty sure we do. Please confirm or comment again, and we will try to, precise a little bit. I would like to thank Tara, who's basically saying that she could put you in contact, Christian, with Dr. Fenton Lebon in the US, who's doing some research on nano NAD plus, NAD plus.
Mm-hmm.
Because she thinks that there could be a very good link to it. So thank you, Tara, for this. And she's given us the details how to contact him. Thank you, Nicola, as well. She says, I'm blown away. So much great information. Tissue renewal support and maintenance is key. We have a couple of more questions from Stevie. He said, you mentioned that people were taking more than 2 capsules a day, like the man with the leg wound, taking 2 capsules every 2 hours. Would this be something you would want to do if you have an issue?
Yes, I mean, it's clear right now that, and when I say it's clear, it's like over the years, I always have the consumer in mind. So I would tell people, let's start with maybe 1 or 2 capsules a day, see what it does for you and see how much you need. And so many times I've heard people come back and saying, oh, I started with 2 capsules 3 times a day, and I've seen like the long list of benefits they have experienced. So now hearing this, the other person that was taking 1 or 2 capsules a day now start to take more, and they come back and now they report the benefits that they've gained from it. So I've developed this, I think, better approach to say, you've been for many, many years right now in a process of cellular deficit by this decline in the number of stem cells. So give a month or 2 the chance for your body to kind of really rebuild this effect, like flood your body with stem cells. And then after that, you can taper off. And then do just 1 or 2 a day, or maybe do it for a month and take a pause, but starts higher at first. And people tend to really get much better experience.
Another question from Stevie again. If you are already a fit and healthy individual and you don't notice any real significant change, is there a test that can be done to see if there is any quantifiable difference in the number of stem cells?
The best test for somebody like this is to say, go to the gym or go somewhere, do something that you know the day after you will be sore, and then go and do it. And they take 2 capsules right after this session of physical activity. Take 2 before you go to bed, and see how you feel in the morning compared to how you know your body, how you should have felt. And it's going to show you not only what the product can do in releasing stem cells, but also what your stem cells can do when you feel it. Because we're talking about something, it's a little bit like your immune system. It is vital to your body. And yet, aside from your nose stopping to be runny, or you stopping coughing, you don't really experience the benefit of your immune system. So in the stem cells are the same. It's your repair system. You have released stem cells every day of your life. If Hiroshima has shown that if we eliminate all the stem cells in the body, you cannot survive more than a month or 2. So your stem cells are keeping you alive. They're doing a absolutely vital role in the body. So you don't feel them. So the moment you up the ante by having them be more effective, you're not necessarily going to feel it unless you have an issue that repairs and now you experience the repair. So the effect is there. Your stem cells are doing their job. Putting more stem cells in circulation will rebuild, if you want, the body's resilience. So they will do their job. Now it becomes a personal decision as to to decide if not feeling the benefit, is this something that is worth for me doing for longevity? Maybe like a compromise approach is to say, do this a few times a year until you start to experience the benefit, and then do it more.
Yeah, and Rob was asking pretty much the same question. If you have no obvious conditions, what's the daily amount of Stemregen to take for healthy maintenance?
Yeah. It's a little bit like so many things. Like you take vitamin C, you don't need to experience the benefit of it. There's a lot of things we know because now it's become understood what it really brings to human health. I think that down the road, when really the role of stem cells is really recognized for what it is as the body's repair system, we develop problems following a gradual decline in our ability to repair. So it's a gradual failure of endogenous repair. Once that really sink in, then it completely changes the question. The question is like, okay, do I want to be subjected to the slow day-to-day consequence of a failure of endogenous repair, or do I want to compensate it with a daily enhancement of endogenous repair? To me, it kind of becomes obvious when we really take all that science and look at it for what it is. But so it has not yet reached that in the global understanding. So I would say play with it and see when you play with it. See for you. I take it every day.
Me too, by the way. And for
Me
15
too.
years.
I
So,
played with it and I
yeah.
found good results.
So I mentioned Tara earlier on. In fact, Tara is a social media name. She's called Victoria, and she says, from my own experience, it seems that PEMF helps shake up the cells, allowing them to respond to frequency-based work more effectively. When used alongside Rife and plasma, this appears to improve how the body takes on and works with whatever is being used at the same time. She's sharing this as a personal observation. Do you want to comment on this, Pete?
Yeah, Tara, thank you. It's a very good point. Shaking up is a good description. Our equipment, you do actually shake a little bit, especially if you have a lot of lean mass. We are stimulating the cells. I think we have somewhere in the region of 37 trillion cells within the body, and the rest of it is salty water and microbes. And we call it cellular exercise. We call it passive exercise. You lay there or sit in a chair. Most people fall asleep because it's also very good for the autonomic nervous system. We're using very low frequencies. Christian, you're smiling because I know you had a session at our place in December and you had that. So we're both shaking things up and activating the cell and the organelles within the cell. We're supporting circulation. And Tara, I think, mentioned about Rife and Tesla and other modalities. All of these incredible technologies, wellness technologies. Again, they're all there in nature, but they are amplified with some of this incredible wellness technology that now exists, and the science supports it, and definitely what we see at studio level nationally and with our international colleagues definitely also supports that as well. So I would completely agree with Tara. It's all good.
Very good. Thank
The
you.
key would be the frequency and the appropriateness of the application. I'll just caveat by saying that it's too much is not good, too little is also not beneficial. The devil is in the dose and getting the amount right. Similar with with what Christian is talking about with the amount of Stemregen to take. More is not necessarily better. It's the way it's applied and the skill in the application, and then the support from the client or patient who's receiving that, getting a good night's sleep, hydrating properly, being around good people, good things happen. So I'm sure Tara would agree with a question like that.
Mixing a couple of questions there, can Stemregen be taken alongside pharmaceutical or herbal medicines? And is there any known contraindications?
None known. It can be mixed with anything. And again, I've mentioned that a little bit earlier, but the fact that we're touching stem cell mobilization, which is a new concept, make it look like, it's something that it could interfere with other things in our lives. And I would just take a step back here. You've been releasing stem cells every day of your life. When you go to the gym and you do intense physical activity and you release more stem cells, you don't have any contraindication with anything else that you're doing in your life. So I'm saying this just to understand that no, we have not seen any. So this is now 25 years that I'm working with these plant extract. We have marketed them substantially over the years, and nothing has emerged with everybody using these products. There's no contraindication. There's no side effects. Nothing really has been noticed. The only side effect, if we can call it a side effect, is that with people with joint issue, fibromyalgia, those kinds of problems, a proportion of them, I would say maybe like a third of these people, first experience an exacerbation of their condition. They'll say, man, this product is bad for me because I have more pain than I used to have. And invariably, I will say, it's great. Like something is happening. And if they stick with it, give it a week or two, and then suddenly they are at a place with much better quality of life. So I cannot say it's a side effects. It's more like healing crisis or something like this. So outside of that, nothing has emerged over the years of using these plant extracts.
I hope you both have a little bit more time because questions keep coming in. Would this help with the menopause? Joe is asking.
It's very interesting because I've been diving into this question recently, both for my book, but also with a study that we're starting, Christian, I think you're aware of in it's not Denmark. I think it's Estonia or Denmark.
It's Finland.
Finland, there you go, Finland. And that's what we're doing. So we're looking at fertility, but also menopause. And interestingly, there's a lot of mechanism of action through which stem cells, mostly through the paracrine effect, not through the repair effect, but through the paracrine effect, that can influence how cells function in the ovaries, in anything touching women's health, which now helps me understand something that I have heard many times over the years without a clear mechanism of action, that people going through menopause and having I would say, a quality of life that is medicated would come back and would say, oh, they're feeling much better sleep, much less hot flashes, like many things is much more balance in their life. So it can help in that way. But the real mechanism of action is something that I'm still digging out, and hopefully we can have more response as we continue that study in Finland.
Pete,
It's a good question.
Well,
yeah, just a quick word on that in terms of PEMF. We work with lots of clients who are perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal. It's well known that osteopenia, osteoporosis can be a factor, and PEMF is very well studied with lots of incredible data to show the positive impact on bone health, on osteoblasts, and prevention of fractures and increasing quality of bone density, not to mention other organ systems, which again, we're passing through all organ systems, more cell voltage, more ATP. So we do tend to find, particularly with bone health, but some other factors related to menopause, people do report positive impact with PEMF.
Thank you, Pete. No transition whatsoever. Now we're talking about, after menopause, large animals. So have you researched application in large animals, equine being the obvious? And thank you for the fascinating content Louisa's saying.
I mean, in both, our product, it's not on the marketplace now, but we have made versions of Stemregen for dogs, for horses, and the results are just, it's pretty remarkable. So yes, it does work for animals. And in the meantime, it's very simple. Just open the capsules into the grain and then give it to the horse. It's totally fine. And it works very, very well. And I know that PEMF works well as well, because I do have a device, a PEMF device for horses. I'm using it on myself. And so I know that PEMF has been used a lot in the equine industry. So both of them coupled together will work very well as well.
Mm-hmm. And the animals love it too. They're easier to work with than humans. It's
quite impressive. It's quite impressive to see a device like PEMF, that gives you like a shock, electrical shock in a way. And animals, normally a horse who is afraid of everything should be afraid of that. But as you slowly increase the intensity, you almost like see the horse backing into the pad because it's almost like they like it. It's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
It is, and it's a light energy. We're converting electricity into light frequency energy, and they know it's good, as you say, Christian, and they will back into it. A large animal will tell you, put it here, and you see the ears moving, the jaw, the lips, the eyes, all of these signs of a relaxed animal, and smaller animals are no different. So, yeah, completely agree with your findings.
Would this protocol possibly address a torn ACL? Question from Peter.
Totally.
Okay, the answer is very clear.
No, totally. For the same thing that we have talked before, you put more stem cells in circulation, you pool them in an area, you make them migrate, you help them become tendon, ligaments, and all of that. And we have a lot of stories. And if there is a need for surgically reattaching, because sometimes it has to, then the recovery from it is so much better if we do both release and PMF.
A question that is a bit different, but as the COVID vaccines armed the stem cells? Question from Claire.
I'm not aware of it, if it does. We have not seen, like, I cannot say that I have seen people exposed to the spike protein coming back and having results different. Like, I have not seen things being different in the COVID era in terms of efficacy of the product. But the damage that is, I don't think Stemregen itself will have an effect on the spike protein, but it will have an effect on the damage created by the spike protein. So that we have seen a lot of it. One of our main investor had a long COVID, and nothing could do anything to it. And in a matter of a few weeks on Stemregen release, and suddenly he was back. So he asked, are these guys needing money? So we have seen it.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking earlier about fibrin production and the connection with microclots and vascular support. So perhaps, in that respect, if it's good for scar tissue, that's just a collection of fibrin, is my understanding. So perhaps good in that respect.
Has this been studied or observed in professional or elite athletes, particularly for recovery and regeneration?
Of course. This is a reason why we have, aside from Stemregen release, we have Stemregen Sport, which is essentially the same product, but certified NSF for professional athletes. So we are now penetrating the professional athletes world. I'm looking at a study that I think would be fascinating, which is to count the number of stem cells that athletes naturally have in their blood and link this to how many games are they missing because of injuries. And there's no doubt in my mind we will see a straight correlation. If you happen to be a person with fewer stem cells in circulation, you don't repair as well from microlesions. They become repetitive and additive. And at some point, this is where you have a bigger injury. So you're more prone, or you have more risk for significant injury, so you miss more games. So now the solution, every day, just put more stem cells in circulation and you recover quickly from these microlesions, and then it helps you overall in your career. So with specific athletes now well known that have taken a product and have seen the difference, right now we're really penetrating some of these. We've been working on this for many years, and now it is just starting right now. Like right now, the product is in the hands of fairly big names. We're going to be at the drafting season in the baseball league. Same thing with the football. We're same thing in hockey. So it's happening. But for the athlete that is not necessarily a professional athlete, all these benefits are derived. So by repairing faster, recovering faster, over time, you gain greater performance with less injury.
Yeah, and it is worth mentioning that sport is getting registered in Europe at the moment, so it is not yet available. But as you said, if the athletes are not professionals, then they can use Stemregen release because there's no risk for as a doping agent, so that's not an issue. Eamon is saying that he's absolutely blown away with the information shared. He's now very optimistic about giving it a shot. Thank you very much for this evening session. Stevie's saying it's been extremely valuable. He's going to read your book, Christian, and try the product. Kimber is a question. If it multiplies stem cell, will there ever be another supply of stem cells in the body, or do you get to a point where the body will stop producing them if not needed?
Stop producing stem cells if they're not needed?
Yeah.
You always need stem cells. Like you cannot survive without stem cells. So I used to say you don't die because you run out of stem cells, but it's almost like a false statement, meaning I think that eventually we die, even of a beautiful death as a 120-year-old person. It's because your endogenous ability to repair has reached such a low level that overall your organ cannot function properly. But it's not because you've exhausted the bone marrow. It's your runtime. As a human being, the bone marrow is a clock, if you want. And it's not a clock that you exhaust by use. It shrinks as we age. If we can find, and that's something where I want to really invest research, if we can find a way to slow down that conversion or even reconvert the bone marrow in a healthy way, it would probably be the most powerful tool for longevity.
Pete, another Pete is saying that he's worked with Pete and the PEMFiT team for over a year, and it is exceptional. He's extremely excited to integrate Stemregen into the program. Sue is asking if we can talk about using these plant extract during chemotherapy and immunotherapy.
Absolutely. Now, understand when I say this, I am not a clinician, I'm not a physician, and I don't want to tell you to do something that your physician is telling you not to do, because typically what they will say is that if there's something that they don't know, they'll say, don't do it. And in this case, if you take something that has any kind of antioxidant properties, it can interfere with the treatment, they'll say, don't do it. So I don't want to say anything against that. All I will say is that the number of times that people came and shared that while they're going through cancer treatment, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, whatever it is, as they're going through the treatment in the group that they're part of, they are the one with the least amount of side effects. I have somebody who told me one day, the whole group in the clinic is told, take at least a day or two, sometimes 3 days off after a treatment, a chemotherapy treatment, because you'll be like extremely tired. And he says, I go to my treatment and I go back to work. I don't feel any effect from it. But the effect is still there. Like they do well in their treatment. So all I can say is that the stories that I have heard almost invariably, and it's probably in the top 20 stories that I hear, is that it works very well with these treatments. But I'll stop short of telling you should do it or to telling you what to do, just sharing here what we have seen over the years.
Steve is also asking, is there any other modalities other than PEMF that could help boost stem cells or enhance the benefits of Stemregen?
I think red lights will have a really good synergy in a similar way as PEMF, just not as powerful. Red lights, hyperbaric chamber in a completely different way, has a very strong and beautiful synergy with Stemregen release. These are the ones that right now come to mind. We're starting to work with peptides, bioregulator peptides, so that we can guide the repair process. And then think about now Stemregen release, bioregulator peptides, and PEMF. I mean, this could be like a powerful, powerful trio.
What about sauna, Christian?
Sorry?
What about sauna?
Sauna is good. Sauna is like, because I dove into that as well. And it's interesting because this one, contrary to PEMF, red light, or those that I mentioned, because I thought the question was about like the synergy. Sauna is almost like complementary. What sauna does in your body, it's almost like stem cells does not really touch it. What stem cells do, it's like you do them together. It's almost like you approach longevity from two different angles. So the benefit is definitely complementary. I have a sauna in my living room. So it's nothing has been studied for longevity, I think, more than sauna.
No.
But it does not work, from everything that I have seen, in a really synergistic way in terms of one leverage the other. It's just like you bring two different benefits and you enjoy the cumulative benefit of two different types of benefits.
Kimberly is asking if is the athlete version of a product a stronger product?
It's not a stronger product. In essence, what it is that when I studied plant to find plants that have, or product that have an effect on stem cell mobilization, I discovered that some plant actually have an effect on migration. You take them and within 20 minutes, you get this sudden drop in the number of stem cells. At first, we thought the machine was broken, was dirty. Like we cleaned up everything. And there's a point we had to realize this is a real physiological effect. And then we studied it and documented properly. It is a stimulation of migration. So then it was clear we want repair in tissues. So you want to release stem cells. If I have a way to stimulate their migration, then let's blend that with the same product. So that's why we have in Stemregen Release those 5 products that I talked about, plus beta-glucan and highly fractionated colostrum, which are 2 products that had a strong effect on migration. But colostrum being a natural source of insulin growth factor, which is on the WADA list, it's not possible to certify a product that contains colostrum. So we changed colostrum for an ingredient that is well documented to support muscle, joint, and joint repair in general, which is pterostilbene, like a sort of a more potent version of resveratrol. So we simply changed those ingredients. So it makes the product more targeted, if you want, for joint repair. But in terms of stem cell mobilization, it is the same.
Where can we get these products and how much does it cost? Pete, do you want to answer this one?
Yes, I can. You can get it from our studios across the UK. They stock it. We have it on our website, which is PEMFiT.co.uk. You can also get it on our sister website, which is optimalhydration.co.uk. The cost varies a little bit because we keep the price competitive with 1 or 2 other stockists. So, as someone said earlier, it's not the lowest price product out there, but it's somewhere in the region of £160 per pot. I've got mine here actually, something like that. But I didn't check the price today. But we keep the price as competitive as anybody in the UK. But it's an extremely high quality, well-researched product, and as Christian has given us a masterclass in today, extremely beneficial in many different areas. So it's something when I met you guys in Austin, I decided to invest in. I bought many pots of it back with me. I thought I'm going to do my own experiment. I got great results, and it's one of those things that it is an investment. And as Christian said, I suppose as the older and the more need you have, the more you may want to apply it. But it's available on our websites.
Julia, thank you, Pete. Julia's asking to repeat the name of the book. So it's Cracking the Stem Cell Code, written by Christian a few years ago. If taking 2 capsules a day, when is the perfect time to take them? And thank you for this webinar. This is Greg.
There's no real time to take it. And I'm saying this just because over the years, people have taken it at all kinds of time, and I have not seen emerge anytime as I'm talking with consumers that a time seems to be better than another. In our studies, we all do this when people come in the morning and they take the product in the morning, but it's for practical reasons from a protocol standpoint. You want people to arrive in the morning. You want to do this when they're fasting so that food does not interact with the whole process. So we cannot have them fasting for too long. So we do everything early in the morning. The product is taken around 8 or 9 in the morning. Your natural circadian cycle will be a peak in the number of stem cells in circulation around 5 a.m. And then after that, it goes down. So it led some people to say, well, the morning is then better than the evening. Quite frankly, I think anytime you take the product, you put more stem cells in circulation, they will go everywhere in the body. They will migrate wherever there's a signal. I don't think there's a real timing that is better than another.
But in relation to a PEMFiT session, you recommend 2 to 3 hours before, Christian, for maximum efficacy. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, you want your really stem cells to peak in the body. I would say 2 hours. If you can time it to 2 hours, it will be like the ideal because it's your session. And then let's say 30, 40 minutes after the session, then you're still into the peak in the number of stem cells.
Last question. Have you done any research on bone marrow Qigong? I don't know if I pronounce it properly.
Qigong?
Qigong.
Qigong?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. I have not.
Okay. So he says everything you have explained makes sense as to why people practicing this exercise are a lot healthier. We have a comment also, which will be the conclusion of the questions from Rob. Superb presentation and love this information and the two products. Thanks very much for your time and efforts, gentlemen. And that's it for the questions for tonight. So thank you very much, both of you, Christian and Pete. Maybe you want to address a last conclusion before we close this webinar. It's been a very long webinar, so thank you very much again also for all the attendees to all have stayed until the end. This is quite incredible. So let's start with you, Christian. Any final word?
I mean, I think I'll repeat something that I said before. Let this information sink in, which is to understand that we see aging and the problem that come with aging as something that slowly happens and developed. And let's sink in here the idea that nothing different has happened. Like you don't apply more physical stress on you at 50 than when you were 40, let's say. Like in your life, you're not necessarily doing more. If anything, maybe you do less. So why are the problem appearing? It's just because in the background, there's this decline in endogenous repair. When you start to really see that, then it changes everything, because now that means your body is not having a problem. Your body is completely fine. It's just it has lost its ability to be resilient and respond to challenges in its ability to repair. And it gives you a whole different angle or lever, if you want, for diagnostic. Now you're looking for problems everywhere and there's none. You just don't repair as well. And it gives you a therapeutic approach. Let's boost his ability to repair. It's like I saw it as a small concept. And the more I'm in it now with this book, it's almost like I'm realizing this changes everything in medicine. So let that sink in. That'll be my final word.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you, Pete, also for having us Stemregen with you and
Thank
your
you,
team
everyone.
from PEMFiT, and I'll give you the final word.
Thank you. Well, I think we have that shared belief. This is why we made the connection. We kept talking. We have that shared belief of helping people live longer, healthier, more energized lives. That is something that is in the heart of the businesses, in the heart of the founders, and I think that's why things are working so well. And for us as well, this is about whether two well understood biological processes and modalities could work together safely and intelligently. And I'm convinced the answer to that is yes. And thank you again, Christian, for a masterclass in your stem cell presentation. That was really beautiful. Definitely one I'm going to watch over and over. And thank you mostly to everyone for attending, because as you say, Christian, it was much longer than we expected. The questions have been extremely high quality, fascinating, and Christian Tricoche, thanks for organising and emceeing today. So thanks to everybody.
Well, thank you to both of you again. Thank you to all the attendees. And thank you in advance for all the people who will be watching it in replay, because there is also a lot of people who were registered for this and could not make it tonight. So that is why PEMFiT's team is going to send you the replay to all of the registered people. So thank you again. Good night, everyone. And enjoy the presentation and enjoy this information. Thank you so much and good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.